Hey, good morning. This is Wendy with Thoughts of a Social Worker, and I had a person on Instagram direct message me regarding my post yesterday on white privilege, and they didn't really feel comfortable with the phrase. They didn't really understand it fully, and so we kind of had a discussion about it. And I thought, well, let me just do a really quick video because maybe there's other folks out there, and I'm pretty sure that there are, that don't understand this concept of privilege. So privilege dates back almost a century when that first was kind of coined. And W.E.B. Du Bois, he did not coin it as privilege, but that's when he began to make a comparison of what people of color experience versus what white people experience. And that particular thing was wage earning and the difference between the two. And we all know it exists. It was later followed up and kind of coined as privilege when there was a paper written regarding female privilege and male privilege by a young lady that was in school. I don't know how the details of that, but you can look that up and do your homework. Remember, it's always about the homework. So privilege. Privilege means that you possess some kind of quality that allows you to have a special or certain benefits that go along with that. So there's privilege connected to race, ethnicity, gender, sexuality, ableism, pretty much all the isms that can be discriminated against. There is a polar opposite privilege that goes along with that discrimination. So, privilege. There are some really important things regarding privilege that we need to know. So privilege, again, is the other side of oppression. So with that being said, that automatically means there is a power and control component that goes along with privilege because it is the direct opposite of oppression. You can be privileged and you can be oppressed at the same time. So, me being a white female, I have that privilege of being white, but I am a woman, and so I can also be oppressed. So just because you have one doesn't mean you cannot have the other. Lots of examples to go along with that. Privilege, the word privileged in a different context means that you get something special. Social justice and privilege means that you have something not because it's special, but because of some sort of equality. So it's really important to remember those two things because a lot of people can get really sensitive when you begin to point out their privilege and they get offended or they take it to heart that means that they didn't work hard. I have white privilege, but I've worked really hard to get where I am. But I've also caught some really great breaks and opportunities because I'm white. So that kind of leads me into the next part of that is what do we do about this thing called privilege? Well, first of all, we have to acknowledge that it exists. And you have to acknowledge it exists not just to yourself, but to the people that experience oppression because of the privilege that you have. Being able to acknowledge it, talk about it. Don't feel guilty because guilt does not do anything to help the situation. But be a voice in your circle. Again, making sure that you are listening and you're validating people that are talking. When I talk with my clients, I never try to make it seem like I understand where they're coming from. I deal with a lot of people of color, and I deal with a lot of people that are socially, economically challenged. And I have been there, but there's no way that I can understand how someone of color who is economically challenged, what that struggle feels like. There's no way. But do I understand struggle? Absolutely. I've had my own set of struggles. So I try to build my rapport, validating that privilege is there, validating that their struggle is real, and validating that I cannot even begin to understand, but I'm willing to listen and let them know that I'm here to support them as much as I can. Taking action is so important, and being able to talk about it, acknowledge it, that it exists, being a voice in your circle, you know, join some sort of community action group. Even if you're just doing something at one of your kids' schools that maybe brings attention to the concept of privilege. Those are all good things. There's lots of things that you can do, but the most important thing is to acknowledge that it exists and to talk about it and to not feel guilty and validate those that do experience the oppression on the other side of your privilege. So I hope that that helps. Any more questions, please send me more messages. I'm really enjoying them. This is Wendy with Thoughts of a Social Worker. I hope you have a phenomenal day. Thanks so much.